The opening screen for CRM 6.5 Pro Sales. This application is designed to be a sales management and sales monitoring application. For example, if you're a sales manager and you have a sales team and their responsibility is to get new leads, to follow those leads, and do whatever is required to bring in that uh, business, this is the application that you want to use. Now, the application is separated into two parts. There's the startup screen, which is a calendar. I'll explain how that's used. And then there's the back end of the application that has all the supporting screens. The main purpose for the calendar is to manage all the activities that are going on with the sales team. The sales team is usually in the field, either doing sales or in the office doing sales, and or raising new leads and following those leads. Now, what this calendar does is it acts as a individual management monitor of each sales team member. The way that works is if I go up here and I say, for example, I'm the administrator or the developer of the application, I assign a app manager, and then beyond that, the app manager sets up a team under the users. And the way that works is they go into the user screen and they go ahead and provide the user information that's required for the individual users. You add new users by clicking an arrow at the top, which is the plus arrow up here. And this is all explained when you go into the help file, which is this circle with a question mark on it. It'll explain how to set up all these different entities on the actual calendar itself. And what you would do is you would create a user. And in this case, I've just got some sample users that I put in here with their login, their username, and their role. In the roles, I'm the system administrator. There is a administrator who is the manager. And in this particular case, I've created two managers and two users. Users can have different roles as far as what they can do in the application. They may not be able to see some kind of screens or fields, and that can be custom designed as the application is set up by the developer. But there is an administrator for the actual application that is allowed to do different things in the application that users cannot do. Let's go back to the main calendar. In the main calendar, what we're going to be seeing here is the different pieces on the calendar as far as the entities. There is as I said before, there's a question mark that'll give you all the help. It comes from an online source. It's not built in the application, so what you would do is it would pop up a thing from the person that created the calendar, the base calendar. Now, what I've done, this calendar has two different portions to it. I can custom do parts of the calendar for everything up on the top, and some of the things like this portion of the screen here, and also in the edit for the appointment screen, I've added different things to the calendar application. Now, as I was stating before, you can set up different users, and the users have their own individual calendar. So if I'm looking at this calendar here and I switch to somebody else, like I'll go down to Tammy here, and Tammy has nothing for this particular date as far as calendar appointments or anything that has to be done as far as tasks are concerned. So if she comes in and she wants to create a new task, she would click on the plus here and start for the day adding things if she didn't already have something in there. Let's go ahead and look back at let's go look at Bob. Bob has one task on the date, and that is Fred Jones's proposal that's due on the 4th of September. It has an icon that shows that it's the 4th of December. It has the date span, and the date span is because there is no single time except for in the actual appointment. But if it were a single day appointment, it would have a start and finish day on the same day, and then a time for the start and finish on the dates. The person that actually created or assigned by the admin or creator is myself in this particular case because I'm building the tutorial. I would have a priority that I'd put on, and I'll show you how you do that in a little bit. There's a normal, routine, and a priority. And if I want to view the particular event, I can go over here and click on the arrow for edit and view, or I can just click right here on this portion of the screen and it'll bring up the actual information that I want to display as far as the edit information. Now, if I go back in and go into the administrator screen, you're going to see something occur here where I have two items that have expired. And what this means is that on these dates, when it surpassed the date that it was supposed to be completed, those dates were not met by putting a complete on the transaction. So if I put a complete on there, it's going to draw a line through it and indicate that that one is completed. And if it goes past the date, like on the 4th, that'll mean that the actual item is complete and it will not fall into the expired appointments area. If I wanted to delete a record, I could click on the red arrow here and delete this particular row, but I don't really want to delete it because it's an active item. Plus, you have to consider that this is like a running history of all the tasks and appointments that have been done by this particular person. And if you are the manager and you want to see what your sales staff is doing, you can see each activity for each day, or I can see it for the week. I could see it for the month. I could see it for the year, or I could see it in a list view. And the list view shows the particular information as far as what actually is being done over a period of time for all the different people and all the appointments. But let's go back. I want to show you something on the week. During the week, I can see the activity that's going on for the week for the person that is listed, which is on the list, and I can see the things that are going for the week through this month. If I want to move to the next month or day, I can go ahead and go by week by week. If I were in the day, it'd be day by day. If I were in the month, it'd be month by month. But you can see that this task runs all the way across the calendar, and it would end up on the 4th of September, which means that this is an activity where we're building a proposal for a particular sale that we're doing, and that information has to run this period, at least it was scheduled to. If I want to make a modification to the date span, I can always click on any of these things right here and modify the date span. In this case, you can see it's 9/18 to 10/4, and it has a medium priority, and it was assigned as a proposal for Fred Jones. Now, if I want to, I can click on the actual date for the item, and it'll show up the date for that date during the span. Or on the week calendar, I can also create a new event by clicking the plus. It's the same thing on the daily screen. If I click on the plus, it's going to go over to the screen. If I click on the plus, it's going to add over here a new, you can see where it says new, I can add a new line item. Now, obviously you can have as many tasks as you want and as many things on one date at a time as you want. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually first show you an existing scheduled item, and this is a proposal work that I just showed you. And one of the things I want to show you too is that there is a drop down on this screen here where you can assign a priority type of status on it, and you can change the statuses in here. If you're creating this app for the first time and you don't want these particular items in here, you can click on the status line up on the header, and that'll bring up this screen. So you have the ability to click on the item and edit the name of it up in this field, or you can create a new one by clicking new. This will go blank, and you can add a new status name in here, and it'll be added to the list down here. And like I said, you can edit these by that way. You do not edit the fields in this area. You just only edit them up here, but you can add as many new things as you need in the drop down. Now, why would I come to a screen like this? I'm going to go back and indicate why. Let's go back to the main calendar. In the main calendar, if you're using this on, like I am, on a computer, it provides you the opportunity to go ahead and use everything that was designed on the application within there. If you want to, you can make changes on the front of the status area here, or you can go into the actual record. Now, I'm going to go ahead and go in now. Like I said, I can either click here or click here. Let's go ahead and click. And what this is going to do, it's going to bring up an additional screen. And on that screen, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be working in what is called the edit appointment record. Now, when you create a record in the appointment on the calendar screen, there's one screen that starts out that's called the new appointment. There's another one called the view appointment. And the last one is going to be the edit appointment. In this particular case, we're in the edit appointment screen, and you'd see that at the top. You can't see it now because it's not a part of what I'm showing you, but just above here, if I pulled it down, you would see where it says edit appointment at the top. Now, when you're in this screen, this is called a modal screen. What that means is that you have to edit here and then leave by closing the screen. You cannot navigate away from the screen. You have to save this first before you can complete and go back to the calendar. Now, in this screen, when you first added the record, there's a regime that you can set up where, in this case, I put in Mr. Jones, Fred Jones, as a proposal that's going to be due by the 4th of September. And I can see that by here. It started on 9/18 going through the 4th. My start time is 9. My finish time is supposed to be by 10 a.m. Now, if this was not a date span, it was just today, then the times that you enter here would show up on the appointment calendar. There's also a drop down, like I said before. In this particular case, I'm doing a proposal. If I was going to do a deliverable, which is going to be some kind of a document, that would be deliverables. If I was going to go to an event like a show or something like that, that would be a show that I would go to that is an event. It could be a marketing meeting of some sort if it's not related to a client that could be an event, or it could be a seminar, for example, would be an event. But if it's going to be a meeting and I'm going to a meeting with a client or within the organization about a client, then the meeting would be the item for the task, and then I'd be showing a meeting with either external or internal in the company to take care of that. If it were a task, and a task could be anything like, I could be assembling documentation or doing something along that line, or putting out brochures as far as getting ready for a show, or building some kind of a thing like an event to go to a show. Activity is usually based, it's a little ambiguous, but it's got a number of different possible things. Send an email, make a telephone call to a client, do something that's related to the client that's an activity that I'm doing as a part of something for a client. There's an action item. Say I went to a meeting or had a meeting with one of the people in my office and I wanted to give them an action item, or they wanted to give me an action item. They could do an action item, and then that would be on the calendar for that person. And how do I do that? Well, any of these items that you create, you can assign to the other people that are in your organization. Now, on this screen, if I say assign to, I can pick select all if it were the whole group. Now, you can have a number of people that go all the way across the screen that are part of your sales organization. And you can just go ahead and put a check in the checkbox for the people that you want to assign the current task that you're working on. You can say, I want Fred Jones to have it, I want Bob Allen to have it, but I don't want Tammy or the administrator to have it. In this particular case, if you're the app administrator or manager and you're asking somebody to do something for you, you would go ahead and put a check mark in for each task that you're creating. Now, because this is a sales organization and you need to track certain kinds of information, I have a sample of a related contacts thing here that shows you, for this particular client that we selected, if they have related contacts in their organization, like secretaries and vice presidents and directors, and our marketing team, or even something like somebody who's going to do shipping and handling or licensing or whatever, those would all be listed in here. Now you can actually add them in this screen, and they will go to the back end of the application and be added there, even though you're adding them in this screen. So you can edit here and have them show on the back end of the screen in the related contacts portal, which this is. So this is kind of a nice thing to be able to do. Now you cannot go directly from here to the back of the screen, as I said before, because you cannot exit this screen without going to the close box. Now, this whole area down here is actually part of the back end of the application. So if you're starting to wonder what that is, what we're going to do in this is, if I want to pick a person who is the primary person contact within a company, I would pick them from this drop down. They're in alphabetical order, and in this particular case, this can also be shown as either, and this is part of the customization, it can either be by person name, or you can opt to have it by company name. Now, some people pick either way. Since this is a custom application, it can be modified to fit your needs. So in this particular case, if I picked Fred Jones, you'd notice that everything changes here, and now I'm looking at Fred Jones's activity track, meeting track, and action track. So these are some of the things that are going to be on the back end of the application. I'm going to return over here to show you that this one has data in it, and it shows you that you can add data here, or you can modify it here, or you can change dates or times or whatever, and that will occur in the back end as well on the front end. And each time, say for example, this is a new thing on Fred Jones's, I'm going to create this for him, I would go ahead and add a new activity in this particular area, and I would assign it, say, to maybe George, okay? And if I assigned it to George from the drop down, remember I said that you can, on a header with an underline, you can go in, you can edit the names of the people that are available to add to this particular screen. These are created by, so this is the person within your own organization that is creating this particular event or activity. So I would have an activity type. Activity types are liberal, where you can put anything that you want in there. As far as the type could be anything special that you need to recognize what the activity is. We said an email, a telephone call, assembling brochures for a show, or preparing for a show. So there's a lot of different things can fit in here. The activity status is something that is for this particular activity, and it might be pending, new, whatever it might be, completed, whatever it might be, as far as statusing this activity to see what's happened to this individual activity. The reason it doesn't have a drop down is that there are too many different types of activity statuses that could be assigned, where you could put just about anything you needed to or wanted to. The activity location, if it's a meeting within the building or outside with a client, or something that you're doing related to this activity, that would be the location where it would occur. Then you would just go ahead and put in your notes and narrative in here. What's really nice about an activity, if, say for example, you're sending an email, you can take the body of the email, copy it, and paste it right into this slot right here. So that way you have a copy of the email. Or say you're going to do something that you're documenting, a telephone call, and as you're on the call, you're taking notes that are important to you about that particular event. That's what you'd be adding into the activity. Somewhat the same thing occurs when you're looking at a meeting track. A meeting track is where you put in the meeting agenda. So you have an agenda, you put in the meeting attendees, and you put in the meeting notes. Now you could either be doing this on a laptop or on an iPad, for example, or even on an iPhone. And now with the new 6 Plus, this would work really nice on a 6 Plus because it gives you a lot of window screen area, and you can scroll up and down the screen and be able to see and edit all this information on something as small as a iPhone 6 Plus, which is really what we've been waiting for years, is a portable device with a larger screen for devices. In this particular case, I numbered the different agenda items, I put in the attendees, and I date each item that I'm doing with a number and the date of the actual conversation that is taking place in the meeting. This really is an extraordinary tool for CRM, in that when you're talking to somebody or taking notes, you can put the person's name that you actually addressed in the meeting and who, say for example, created some kind of a goal or a need or something along those lines. Or say for example, says that they want a proposal by a certain date and time. Within the meeting, you can take that as an action item, but you document it in the meeting. That way later you can go into your action items after the meeting and present the action items to whoever has to do the action item. In this particular case, if it's going to an individual, you have the action person here. You have the finish date that it has to be done by, the action status. You have the date that the action starts, and the action name. And these can be ad-libbed as you need to, and of course the action date that starts the entire process. So this is automatically assigned, by the way, the action required ID. You do not edit that. As you can see, it'll highlight the whole record. So you would put whatever the action item is. Now, when you put it down here in its action item, it's probably a very good idea that since this is a proposal thing and you have an action item from a meeting, that you would create a calendar requirement for that particular action item and assign it to the appropriate person. And then put a priority for that particular thing on the main screen to tell that person on their calendar when they're supposed to have it done. And they can go, and you're using the same information, go to that particular person. If you set up the action item and you set that in the action item, you pick this particular screen that person's name in that screen so that they can read what they have to do here in their action item that you're assigning to the calendar. So the information is coming related from this screen. As you go to the other and you pick the person, all that activity is going to be showing here, plus all the older activity. So if I created a new action item for a meeting, I can go look at this particular client and the primary client and look and see all the past things that have happened, plus all the action items that are pending, because it scrolls. You can see as many of the action items as you need to in there. So we have activity track, meeting track, and action item track. There's one last thing on this screen that you should know about, is that you have a separate field up here where you can assign anything you want. You can edit this list and create a long-running list. And you can put up here custom priorities. In this particular case, this proposal in this case is going to be delivered to Mike Casey at the company that we're talking about. And you can delete those if you want to by clicking the delete and taking them out if they're no longer required on your listings. So, and also as you're assigned by, the assigned by will be the person that is the current logged in person who logged in on their calendar. And we're going to explain that in a second. The last thing I want to cover on this screen is the sales team data. Now this can be custom designed to fit the particular company requirements that's buying this application. In this case, we have the rep group for the sales reps, grouped by northwest, east, south, whatever it might be. And that can be added on the main screen in the back part of the application. It's not edited on this screen. Then you can pick or add the sales rep that's going to be added to this in this area. And that's done on the back end of the application in the customer area. And you can put what group this particular sales rep represents. He's the wholesale guy, or he's the retail guy, or he's whatever he is in that group. And that can be added by on the back end by picking it from this list. Like if I wanted him to be in retail, that would be the retail guy that we want to address. There's two sets of ship to addresses for this particular client event, or this guy that's going to this client for this sales team. So what is interesting is that every time you create a situation in the back end, that information is updated on this particular task that we're doing here. You can also take notes on the task on the back end. So this is like a portal record. So there's many records that are represented with that information for each event that you're working on. Okay, that's a lot to say in a short period of time, but you can get the idea of what goes on here in the back of the screen. If for some reason you create a new event and it is completed, you can either complete it on this screen, or you could delete it if you needed to. Say, for example, you started to do it and then you realize, no, I don't want to do this, and I'm going to back out of here. It will do no damage to this calendar or anything. Just by deleting it, you can click here and it goes away. But as I said before, it's not a good idea if you're actually working on a task and you want to complete it. You want to keep the history record of the actual item, so do not delete it. So let's go back to the main calendar. And when we did that, it saved the information. Now, I explained before that there is a help here that allows you to understand how to add users, how to work with the multi-language screen, which changes the text on the screen only in the calendar for things. But there's a lot more that the developer does in this area, and I don't recommend everybody messes with this because it's just for developing changes within the calendar and the view the way it works. Down here on the bottom side of the screen, this is a very interesting part of the application. You can cycle month to month and then view the days, and any date that's got something assigned in it will have an underline on it. Now that's based on the actual person that's currently selected. If I went to another screen, for example, I went to Tammy, you'll see that those lines go away because she has nothing assigned. And it's relative to the actual individual assignments on that date. So if I went to the app manager, there would be nothing in there because the app manager didn't assign it. But as we assigned that to Bob Allen a while ago, you'll see that Bob now has a running series of items all the way through the 4th to do. And by clicking, by the way, on that particular item, it'll move the calendar date where you're viewing activities to that date. So if I wanted to see what's due on the 19th, I could click here and you'll see the calendar actually change to the 19th. So it's a way of going very quickly to the date that you want to. The slow way is to come up here and click one day at a time, next day, prior date, and then the today. So if I click on today, you'll see that it's going to switch back to the 18th. Now we already said that we can click in here and do an assigned task or create a quote or whatever it might be. And I'm going to say, in this particular case, this was a proposal. So I'm going to say scheduled task, and I'm going to put a priority on a priority 1 because we need to work on this and get it done. Now, obviously, if you create a new one, and you're creating a new one by clicking a new plus up here, when you actually set it, when you come back to the screen, there will be nothing in this particular status area. So you're going to have to set the status area. If you set the status area in this screen for this topic thing, and it's actually shared between different calendars for different people, that status is shared through all the calendars. So this is actually transparent through all the different calendars, but only for the people that have it assigned to them. So if you change it here, it's going to change it on all the screens. If you create your own singular task and you put it on a row within your own calendar and you put your own status and priority on it, that's the only place it's going to be seen, and you can put your priorities on there the way you want to. If somebody else is setting priorities and they're putting it on there for you, like an administrator, manager, director, whatever, that particular priority should not be changed by you. You're only changing the ones that you're creating for yourself. And when you do them for yourself, you obviously can pick your own status and you can pick your own priority. Now, with priorities, if you look at your daily stuff and you see priority 1s, those are obviously things that you need to do first. So if you have a meeting set for a specific time on that day, and the time would be shown here, then you would want to make sure that if that's the time that you're supposed to be somewhere, that you're there. You would not want to be doing things like making telephone calls during that priority period. So you would have, say, maybe your telephone calls either a 2, 3, 4, or 5 type of a priority. With the drop down, you could set that. And each time you set that, it changes the color of the actual item on the screen. So you can also see what are your higher priorities. They're in like red. So they're much more important things that have to be done. A 3 is getting to a blue. And let's go all the way down to a 5 that is also a lighter blue. Okay, so that's a green, pardon me. So you can see that those items are the way, or these items are the way you set things up for priority and also working in the screen. And as we already said before, expired appointments will come to the side over here, meaning that they're a priority to find out why they were skipped or they were not completed on the time that they were supposed to. The last thing I want to cover is some of the top items. This is the calendar, and it's highlighted as the calendar. There is the video that you're viewing by doing the video help, and there's a support site. If you click this, it'll take you to that website. And the one last thing is the obvious thing here. This is the pop-up menu. The pop-up menu shows the screens that are available within the application. Now, obviously, this is the calendar that we're on right now. It's always going to be in blue. This is the main or central area that you would come back to as far as when you leave the application. You could leave from this screen and exit as appropriate. You would go to a customer screen, customer contact screen, or the website, and I'll explain that later what that is, that portal, and the customer UDFs or user-defined screen portal records. The two activities, going to activities track portal, the meeting track portal, the action portal, then the customer list view, the customer contact list view, and then the activity task lists, and there's one for meetings, actions, and then the custom report. That custom report does activities and pulls it all together in one screen so you can view everything and do finds, and I'll explain that later, how finds work, where you can actually sort and search by an individual field to view only what you want to see. The close pop-up will close this, or you can click anywhere off of it and it'll close it. This is the conclusion of this particular screen, with the exception, I just almost missed it. There are profiles, preferences, and re-login. If you wanted to log out in the record that you're currently in by a password and username, you could log out here. Now understand, when users log in, they have their own individual logins that you give them under the user account. When they come into the user account, they can have access, as I stated before, to a certain level of information. But when they log in, this assigned by will change to that particular who logged in by their username. And when they assign and do stuff, they are doing it within their own calendar. The reason you have to log in is that each user has their own data and they're on their own screen. And as they're assigning things, they want to assign them from the appropriate screen for them. So everybody knows who actually assigned it. Okay. If you have questions, I recommend, because tech support is always free, that you go to the support site and either ask a question on the support site or contact me through the support site with that question and send an email via the asking questions form that's on the tech support area. Thank you for taking this tour.